of the Gainesville City Commission General Policy Committee. It is September 10th, 2020. And our first order of business is adoption of our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Jesus Santos. Madam Clerk, can you move to a vote?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Ariola.
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Sacco.
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons is absent. Commissioner Ward.
Aye.
Commissioner Jesus Santos.
Aye.
Mayor Poe.
Aye, that motion passes unanimously. Our next item up is approval of the minutes from the August 27th meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or is there a motion to approve?
Aye.
So moved.
Moved by Johnson. Is there a second? Seconded by Ward. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak to the minutes?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll move to a vote.
Okay. Commissioner Simmons is absent. Commissioner Ward.
Aye.
Commissioner Sacco.
Aye.
Commissioner Ariola. Absent. Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Jesus Santos.
Aye.
Mayor Poe.
Aye, that motion passes unanimously with Ariola and Simmons absent. Okay, on to our pending referrals. Up first, we have a discussion of the Gainesville Apprenticeship Incentive Program, and included with that is a draft ordinance for that plan. Did anybody from staff want to comment on this, or do you want to just go straight to the commission for discussion?
So, Mayor, I'll just start off by saying the document you have in front of you, the draft ordinance, was drafted by procurement staff and basically reflects the St. Petersburg model, which the commission may recall is subject to judicial challenge at this point. I don't believe that's been resolved in the courts at this time, but we're looking for direction from the mayor and commission as to what you'd like to do. And I'd ask that you also think of this in conjunction with the next item on living wage, because if we get direction on that as well, it's probably best that we prepare one overall procurement ordinance, which will address things like apprenticeship, local preference, living wage, and a few other cleanup items that we have. So as much direction as we can get out of the meeting today would be appreciated.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Feldman. So up first, we have Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Manager, for bringing this forward. I'm really pleased. I'm hopeful, let me say, that we're at a place where we can actually move this forward. We've been talking about it for a long time. I want to say the first GPC conversation we had about this was about 1.5 years ago. And I started a conversation about it significantly prior to that. I do like the idea of a procurement ordinance that addresses both apprenticeships and living wage issues. I'm fine with bringing all that together as one. I had some specific recommendations about this draft ordinance for the apprenticeship option. And a question. So first, I'll put out my two changes that I would like to see made, and then I'll ask my question. First, on page 3, line 74, I would prefer 250 inclusive on an annual basis to 500. I won't say I would prefer it. I expect that. So that's 250 inclusive with a vendor as opposed to 500,000. And I know that changes things. I know that's a wider net at that point, which is why I want to do it. The whole point, by the way, of all this, we talk as a commission, and the county commission talks and the school board talks and lots of other groups talk about how important it is to have apprenticeship programs and post high school education that is not necessarily college, for the good of the folks who would partake in them, as well as for the good of the whole society, because we need more people who know how to turn wrenches and do the things that you learn to do and can be paid very well for in apprenticeship programs. What is incumbent on us, I believe, as major employers, the city of Gainesville, is to make sure that there are opportunities for those apprentices once they're in those apprenticeship programs that do not require them to catch a ride at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the Crystal River plant to work electrical apprentice work down there, or to go somewhere else that is far away that has actual opportunities for apprentices to go to work. We can create those opportunities right here in city projects, and I want that to happen. That's why this is here. That's the whole point of this. So I'd like to see page 3, line 74, change to 250, and do whatever we need to do to make sure that that's an inclusive annual figure for any contractor. And page 4, line 111, I would like to change may to must. I want this to actually happen and be enforced, not just if we feel like it. I think those are important changes to make. And my question is, you all may recall we had some very good discussion about including what's generally thought of as a quote unquote hard to hire package as part of this. So there was language that we had constructed that we had asked for to be included with this that helps include non-traditional employment, including women in the workforce for these contracts, including people with prison records, etc. Lots of people who fall into a hard to hire category. And we had significant discussions about that. There was a lot of language there, and I wonder what happened to that, because I don't find it in the current proposed ordinance. Those are my comments. I look forward to response from the management team.
Okay, so we'll give a little time to find an answer to the question about the hard to hire portion, and turn to Commissioner Sacco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I agree with Commissioner Ward's points. I think especially the 500,000 is a higher threshold to meet on projects as we build them, unless we're constructing an entire new building. I think it might be a high threshold to have apprenticeship work, and a lower threshold means we'll more likely have more opportunities for this measure to be used. I had a question about, and I couldn't find it. I tried looking, and I'm wondering if somebody could point it out to me where I could see it. What we define as a local, or whether at any point we have local defined in here, or if that's going to be put somewhere else. That may be a Mr. Feldman question.
So I don't believe we have local defined in here, but that's something I've been working with our procurement staff. And if we bring you back a consolidated ordinance, I would like to have a local preference policy that's formalized within the ordinance. Right now, when we look at local, when we look at our preference policy, it's really designed to be small and disabled owned businesses, or disabled veteran owned businesses, but it's in a 9-county area. And to me, I think we ultimately need to look at Gainesville, Alachua County, and then the surrounding areas for entities we do business with. That's more on the general government side. I'll let GRU comment on what local means to GRU, since they have a territory that expands the city's boundaries. But it would be defined slightly different, I think, for GRU.
But we'll come back with that later when we get, I guess, a more solidified procurement ordinance than these two today.
That's my plan.
Okay. Otherwise, I think that was my one concern that my concern is you'll have a vendor who will do a handful of projects and no one project reaches the 500 or the 250 threshold, and they'll say it doesn't apply to them. And I want us to be very clear that if in any calendar year or fiscal year you have so many contracts, or if we give you 5 contracts to do the work on 5 different buildings, that's an aggregate 250, and that the apprenticeship requirements apply to you at that point. I don't want people to take advantage of any loopholes that we might overlook, and I want the intent to be clear that if you do a certain amount of city work, that you do comply with the apprenticeship program, and that's our intent. So I don't know how that would go into drafting, how to put that, otherwise that it be just known that that was our intent. But that's one of my concerns, that people might have piecemeal contracts and don't meet the threshold to have this requirement. But otherwise, I agree with the points that Commissioner Ward brought up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just on Commissioner Sacco's last point, I think it'd be good. I'd be curious to see how we can do that from a procurement thing, because if it's like they received a contract already and it's just, it might be difficult to, if they've already received contracts and things like that, and how do we kind of force it on future ones? I don't know. I'm open to looking how we can do that from a procurement side, but I think it might be difficult to do. I do have some questions for staff on Commissioner Ward's move from 500,000 to 250,000. I'm supportive of that, but are there any concerns with the move, with that move, or is that just kind of like a policy and economic impact?
Or to ask that, because I have a similar question, to ask that question slightly differently and answer it whichever way you want. But why did 500,000 end up being the number that got included?
And I guess to add on to that same question, because it somewhat ties into it, is the maximum of 10% or 50,000, which would drop to 5% and 25% of like what the contract could be increased to if you had apprentices as part of it. That's like on page 5, line 145, and I guess on page 4, 113.
So let me go back also and just stress one point that Commissioner Ward made that that may tie ultimately into this discussion too. So with regard to the language from may to must or shall on there may be times where we are prohibited from taking this type of action based upon the funding source of the project. So for example, sometimes we get state grants, or there's state statutes that say we can't do certain things like local preference on a particular type of project, or there are federal prohibitions from doing things that violate or are not consistent with federal procurement practices. So we always want to make sure when we're doing things like this that it's may versus must, so that we're not disqualifying ourselves from participation in different programs that are out there. So I would just suggest that we keep the may in terms of latitude, to make sure we're not carved out of anything. With regard to the number of 500,000, I believe that came from the St. Pete ordinance, again, that we modeled this after. And this is just a very preliminary draft. So what I'd prefer to do is on all these issues that you have, not specifically answer them today, but to take them back and we will make sure we address them as part of an ordinance, if that's the direction that the commission has to come back with one.
And on one of these was it's like it's on GRU. It says that GRU staff recommends going from 10% to 10% and 50,000 to 5% to 25,000. Was there kind of any reason for that request, Mr. Polarski?
I'm getting there. Hang on there. Yeah, I'd have to research that with my purchasing staff. I'm not off the top. I know Mr. Shepherd's on the line right now. Do you have any response to that, Bill?
Yep, I'm trying to find my mute button too. So I think what you're talking about, Commissioner, is when we were discussing it as an incentive program, not a requirement program.
Oh, okay. Is that where?
Yeah.
Okay. That's on the page 5 of the incentive portion versus earlier it's mandatory. Okay. I think that's all of the kind of major questions that I have now. I'm supportive of us moving forward with an ordinance in some fashion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I have a couple of, first, I agree with a lot of what Commissioners Ward and Sacco said, particularly what Commissioner Ward mentioned about the disadvantaged worker. And I would also like to see some of that language put back into the ordinance. And I'm wondering if we also need to define what disadvantaged worker means. And I'd just like to offer a few categories. I definitely would love to see the formerly incarcerated put back in, as well as homeless, mentally or physically disabled, women, economically disadvantaged, particularly those that have been on public assistance within the past. I'd like to lower that threshold from 12 to 6 months. And I'd like to see all that put back in there. And also, I am supportive of us moving forward with an ordinance. I do want to know a little bit more about the legal challenges that St. Pete is facing. Thank you.
Thanks. Do we have anybody from legal staff that, anybody that can talk to us about the legal challenge going on right now?
Hi, Mayor. No, I don't have a status update. We reached out to St. Pete the very end of July to get an update and haven't heard back. So we'll have to report back to you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Johnson, do you conclude?
Do we know what the legal what the challenge is based on at all? I don't necessarily even need an update, but I don't think I understand what the challenge is there.
Michelle, do you have just a broad sort of understanding of what they're trying to challenge?
They raised a number of challenges. I can look it up and report back to you all here in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is that an old hand, Mr. Feldman?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to know, has the Office of Inclusion, and I forgot the name of it, but Tanisha Marshall's office, did they partake in any part of this No, we have not. Well, I would, some of the questions that I'm hearing and some of the concerns for as it relates to preference, I think that the city manager may want to get with Tanisha Marshall and address some of the concerns that I'm hearing some of the commissioners have. And I also agree with Commissioner Harvey Ward lowering the higher threshold of 250,000. But I think the Ms. Marshall's office need to be engaged as we move along with this ordinance. I think it's critical. Maybe we need to apply the equity toolkit to this. But I'm going to recommend that the city manager's office, the attorney, get with Tanisha Marshall's office. Thank you, Mayor.
So Commissioner, we absolutely will. Let me just again preface, this isn't a proposed ordinance from us. This was a draft document that was created over 10, 12 months ago at this point, that we're just attached to this item to be a starting point in discussion and for the commission's information. So we didn't want to get more into this until the commission gave us some direction as to what you all want.
Okay, I'm very well aware that this is a draft, and that's why I'm recommending that you all get with the Tanisha Marshall's office as we proceed in the process. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Before we go back around a second time, you know, I'm still, so I continue to be supportive of getting something adopted. A lot of the questions I just, you know, I need more information to know. I like to know what the right dollar threshold is. You know, I don't know the pros and cons of a higher threshold versus a lower threshold yet. And so I'd like to hear that. You know, with the sort of hard to hire folks, I really need to learn a lot more about that, because the main point of this ordinance, this part of the ordinance, which sounds like it's going to be wrapped into some other things, is making sure that city dollars are going to firms that have apprenticeship programs versus firms that don't. If we add another layer to that your apprentice, you not only have to have an apprenticeship program, but your apprenticeship has to employ X percentage of various groups, I think we get ourselves into a situation pretty quickly where there would be nobody that would qualify, or nobody that would win the bids, because nobody would meet all of those criteria. And so, you know, I think we need to be cautious about creating such a narrowly defined apprenticeship ordinance that no firm qualifies, or probably even worse, only one does. So one firm is able to get all the bids because they get this preference, and that can really hurt a lot of our other local small businesses, especially women-owned, minority-owned businesses that we're also trying to make sure get a fair shake. That might not be a barrier. I just don't know. So I need to see how other communities have done this, and sort of what the there's always trade-offs, right? You know, we can put more of certain goals in there, but those are going to take away from other goals of ours. And so, you know, I want to move forward with finding out information on all of these things. But it's really going to, you know, I think this is going to need to come back to us before first draft. I think another more completed draft is going to need to come back to us before first reading for sure. So I can better understand what it means to raise or lower the dollar threshold, what it means to insist on certain categories of potential employees to be included in the apprenticeship program, and so forth. So, you know, the manager asked for specific direction as we get to the end of all this. And my specific direction is going to lean more towards bring all these options back and give us sort of a cost benefit analysis of what each of them means, whether we do them or not. And then we can figure out what the right combination is to make this ultimately work. That's what we want. We want more and more firms in Gainesville to include apprenticeship programs that create a path to, you know, good sustainable employment for our neighbors. So that's where I am. Commissioner Ward, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. I know that there would be some concern about the legal challenges. My thought on that is we should move forward with ours, and then if at some point there's resolution on the St. Pete challenges, we can adjust as necessary. I mean, it's one of those things that we have done with other items before, is move forward, and then we can adjust if the courts want us to adjust, rather than saying let's wait, because, you know, the longer we wait, the less gets done. And that challenge to the St. Pete ordinance has been in the courts since we first started talking about this a year and a half ago, and I don't imagine it's going to be resolved quickly. So I hope that we can move forward with the understanding that if it needs to be changed, we can amend ordinances. I understand the desire to want to look at more information. I want more information as well. I'm a little leery of a fourth general policy discussion about this. This is number 3. I need to see some movement here, and I think we all do. It's one of those things that, oh yeah, that's a nice idea, we should probably do that, and then we shelve it for a few months, and it comes back up, you know, every 6 to 12 months and gets shelved again. And I really hope that doesn't happen this time. After we hear from the public, I think the motion should include timelines. I'm okay with a fourth general policy discussion about this, but it needs to be in a position to do something relatively quickly. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sacco.
So to kind of answer Commissioner Hay-Santos' question earlier, I understand that a vendor might have contracts, you know, one in January and then come back to us in August and have a different contract. So how do we track that? My concern wasn't so much that as if a vendor executes contracts at the same time for 5 different buildings, that we make sure that we're counting them as one aggregate, I guess, contract with the vendor for a total amount, as opposed to, well, we have one contract because you're going to fix City Hall and one contract because you're going to do work in another building. I wanted those to be counted together, not so much sequentially throughout the year, because I know that's going to be hard to track. And then how do you track it at the 8th month versus at the beginning? But it was more making sure that if we do multiple contracts with someone at the same time, that it is an aggregate amount, not individual contracts that we count that total for, if that makes better sense. And Mr. Mayor, to your point about, I understand where, you know, this would be about, the purpose is to get more apprentices working on city projects so that we give a preference and opportunity to them. Would it be possible to have multiple preference criteria where apprenticeship is one preference point and disadvantaged workers is a different preference point, because that way someone could have potentially 2 preference points. Because I think we also, if we want to add local, that's a 3rd preference. Is there, I don't know if we're planning on doing this on a point system or you must meet all of these requirements to be the first one, but I was envisioning something closer to a point system where if you have apprentices, that's one. If you have a disadvantaged worker, that's another. If you are a local, a Gainesville versus a county versus a nearby county, that's another point. And I think that way we could have all of these components without excluding any as such, if that made any sense at all. But
Yeah,
that's,
I get what you're saying. I think that'd be something good to hear back from procurement about how that would work in the bidding process.
so that was my suggestion for that, because I think they're all good things to move on. I just, like you said, I don't want them to cancel each other out and then not have anyone be able to do it. But that was my suggestion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Commissioner Johnson, back to you.
Thanks, Mayor. I prefaced my question about the legal challenges earlier with that I am absolutely supportive of us moving forward with something. I just simply don't know what the legal challenges are, and that is what I want to know. I think it's good governance to understand what those are, and anything that this city does that's worthwhile will often be challenged legally, and that's something that I inherently understand. So I think it's a matter of just knowing what they are and knowing what the risks are. So I'm supportive of moving forward. I want to know what the challenges are. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. I also agree with that too, Commissioner Johnson. I have no problem with us moving forward, but I do want to ask if I can remember the last time we met on this subject before COVID, did we ask staff to come back with some information from Colorado? Because I think during that time they were implementing something similar to this, and they were further along than the St. Petersburg project. I'm just trying to remember. I don't know if it was Boulder or Denver, but someplace in Colorado we asked to bring something back. Do you remember that?
We got some information in our email today or yesterday from Denver about Denver from James Engel, I think it was, that sent it to us. So with an update on their program.
So can we have, because I want to think the last time we had this conversation, the commission collectively, from my recollection, we were leaning towards looking at that as an example because it was more already in place. I think it had already went through the legal challenges, if I'm not mistaken. I know the city manager just came aboard, so he may not be familiar with that. But can someone from staff bring us up to speed on why we just chose to go with the St. Petersburg framework? Or did we look at other cities throughout the country? Because I want to believe Denver was on that list to take a look at.
Anybody want to tackle that, Mr. Feldman?
So I would have to defer on that one because
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wasn't here, city manager, so maybe you want to ask your staff about what was the outcome of that.
Yeah, so I'll ask either Doug or Diane if they recall that.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Because I think that'd be very helpful to compare the two and give us some type of framework and see what issues that Denver have, how did they overcome it, and is St. Petersburg, are they currently in that same stage that Denver once was? And just, I think that'll give us a lot more insight on legally what we can and cannot do and what worked best, so we could move this forward.
So,
Mayor, I saw Doug Drummond go off mute for a second, so he might.
Yeah, Ms. Wilson and Mr. Dryman both temporarily unmuted themselves. So if you have some input on that, I also see, actually, let's first go to Ms. Ramos I know that you're newer, but senior to those two individuals, so we'll let you speak.
Yes, I just wanted to, I wanted to let you all know that they were raising their hands to speak.
Okay, thanks. Ms. Wilson, Mr. Dryman, I don't know which of you is prepared to address.
Good afternoon, Mayor. This is Doug Dryman, Procurement Manager for General Government. I don't recall being asked to look specifically at Denver. However, to the question that was raised about how we actually began looking with the city of St. Petersburg, that was the program that was initially brought to our attention by Commissioner Harvey Ward. And we made touch, our office made touch with their office to talk with their legal staff about that particular program and some of the legal challenges which have already been discussed that the city of St. Petersburg has been dealing with in reference to their particular apprenticeship program. So we can certainly reach out to Denver. We have looked at some other cities around the country. Many of those cities are considerably larger than the city of Gainesville, and somewhere in the discussion I think I recall that there was some discussion about, well, let's look at our peer cities, you know, cities that are really more comparable to the city of Gainesville rather than, say, the city of Portland or, you know, some other very large metropolitan area. Because of the demographics and the socioeconomic factors may be different for those particular large metro areas compared to the city of Gainesville. So I think that's kind of, in my mind, where we were left when all the COVID-19 stuff came up, and we certainly would be more than happy from my office, along with our counterparts over at GRU, to look at the city of Denver or any other peer cities that the city commission or the city manager may feel would be worthwhile to take a look at.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dryman. Mr. Simmons, did you have anything else at this time? You're good? Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and hear from our neighbors on this issue. I know we have several interested folks and might want to share some thoughts about how we move forward with this. So Larry, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Mayor. As of now, we've got 3 callers on the line who've been standing by, starting with Debbie Martinez. Debbie's going to be followed by Jonathan Howell and then James Ingle, but we'll start with Ms. Martinez.
Yeah, this is Debbie Martinez. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you just fine.
Hello? Okay, well, thank you so much. For nearly an hour while I've been on hold, I have been listening to your staff talking to people calling in from all over the state wanting the commission to vote no on GPD's budget. And the staff did tell them that they needed to call back at 6 o'clock. Evidently, whoever gave them the toll-free number, you know, and had them call in from out of state forgot to tell them that. But since GRU offers apprenticeship programs, Mr. Poe, GRU General Manager Ed Bilarski is looking for another job. Will you be discussing it at this meeting?
No, ma'am, that's not on the agenda.
Ms. Martinez? She appears to have dropped. So our next caller will be Jonathan Howell. He'll be followed by James Ingle, and we've had someone join us since we started, and we'll get that person on the air shortly. Jonathan?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hello? Okay. All right, I've prepared a statement here. Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Howell. I'm an electrician with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 1205, right here in Gainesville. I recently completed the apprenticeship program for 2019. The 5-year apprentice program, I have everything I need to work in this ever-changing industry with a curriculum based on current industry standards. Best of all, the close relationship between my apprenticeship and the labor union I'm affiliated with. I typically work close to home. I have zero student debt. I'm compensated competitively for the work that I do, and I have a retirement. The Department of Labor has clearly laid out the case for the shortage of skilled craftsmen and women over the next 10 to 15 years. And by our municipality enacting ordinances like this, we are building a steady pipeline of qualified workers from the community, building the community. As Gainesville grows, we can feel proud knowing that the improvements to our city will be done by local tradesmen and women from the community, and taking this step to ensure that we have the tradesmen and women we need to build and maintain this beautiful and vibrant city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, we have James Ingle standing by to speak, and there are 3 callers who have joined us since we started, and maybe for this item, I will go to James Ingle first. James?
Hey, thanks. As most of you guys know, apprenticeship is something that's very close to my heart. I'm the product of an apprenticeship program, and it's really given me the skills to support my family, to always have insurance, to have some type of retirement. It moved, a series of jobs into a real career. And I think that's an important thing. When we spend our public money here, to make sure that part of that is going into not just getting the building that we want built, but also the training of this next generation coming up, that really pays dividends. Looking at this ordinance, I think it is very important to make that a requirement and not just a preference on these kind of contracts to make sure that the apprentices are in there. If you want this type of training, it's going to cost a little bit, and I don't want somebody to be able to shirk those costs enough to be able to get out of that preference. I think it's very important to make that a requirement. I think we did a very good job of making sure it was registered apprenticeship programs. This draft of the ordinance, a lot of people can call something an apprenticeship program without any real oversight. By making sure it's a state or DOL registered apprenticeship, that means someone's really looked at their curriculum, really looked at their program, and that's a bona fide program that's going to leave the students with real skills that are marketable anywhere they go. I will say, talking to Denver, just to speak to some of the commissioners' concerns, they're in a very different situation out there. Obviously, their state has a much more labor-friendly state legislature than we do here in Florida, so they've been able to do even more than what this ordinance would ask. But they've had a lot of success with it, talking to locals out there. They've got a lot of people that wouldn't traditionally have been in apprenticeship programs to these opportunities by making this a requirement. And I would say, if we are looking at adding local to this, it's going to be kind of tricky on the construction side for a lot of reasons. In construction, our members move a lot in and out, so looking at just exactly city limits would be tricky, except people move from one side of town to the other fairly regular. And I'd be very worried that if we look for a local preference, I want to make sure it's not where that office is, but that we're bringing kind of work in from this region. So we get a lot of our apprentices don't necessarily live in city limits, but they're not being, they're not coming up from Tampa or Orlando or anything that way. It's Williston or Archer or places that are close and really are kind of members of this community.
Mayor, that's 3
so
minutes.
If there's a move to add local to this, I would really look forward to working with you on that issue.
Thank you.
Mayor, as I mentioned, we've had a couple of callers join since we started, so I'll go ahead and take them now. We have a Gainesville number ending in 1991. Are you calling about the apprentice item?
This is Jeremiah Tattersall calling about the apprenticeship program.
Yeah, Jeremiah, go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay. This is Jeremiah Tattersall. I am with the Florida AFL-CIO and the co-chair of the Latch County Labor Coalition. I'll just be very brief here. I'm in full support of this ordinance and coming back with an actual ordinance that we can, nitpick the details on. I definitely support moving this towards a requirement. What we've found with housing, with preferences and stuff is that people will eat the penalty and they won't actually do this. And we want to actually support our local apprenticeship programs at Santa Fe, at Electricians Union down by Satchels, and all these other things. The sheet metal workers, bricklayers, all these trades and stuff. We really need to make this a mandate, and it really is an equity issue too. Is the electricians either at Santa Fe or at their apprenticeship school over behind Satchels. You can go to school there and you can take the classes, but you have to get these apprenticeship hours. You have to get so many hours on the job training, and it's hard to get those in town. All these cranes, all this construction happening, a lot of it's not happening with certified apprenticeship programs. And so we have people that are taking classes and then they're heading out to Swanee or to Perry or to all these other areas to get their hours so that they can become a fully fledged journeyman electrician. And once they have that license, then they can do a lot more stuff with it. So what this really does is it allows people that are taking these programs locally, being trained locally, and being able to get their hours locally. And I think it's a really, really big issue. I know people that have had a lot of trouble completing the apprenticeship program because they can't get the hours because they're having trouble, getting a ride to Perry, Florida, or something like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are two more callers that may be on this item. We have a Tampa number ending in 3921. Caller, are you calling about the apprenticeship item?
I am.
Okay, please go ahead. You have the floor.
Am I off of mute?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. My name is Andrew Mitchell. I work in the construction industry here. I'm a professional engineer in Gainesville. I think this is a great program. I do want to say that the commission might want to consider that the burden of the 10% of hours by the apprenticeship program is high for bid projects in the Gainesville area for the GC to evaluate that, where most of the work is going to be done by subcontractors, and the subcontractors are going to control who is on site. So I think if you want to see this bear fruit, you may need to consider to make the policy available to the subcontractors to include the preference in their bid to the general contractors. They're the ones that are going to be controlling the tradesmen and who are going to be able to assess the applicability for the project. This allows the city to provide a benefit while allowing the contractors the flexibility to meet the requirements of the benefit on the applicable project. So the burden on the city is to provide a benefit that's accessible and profitable, but doesn't create an unfair advantage to game the system. And I think you may want to just look at the idea of putting two more things in the ordinance. One, that the city shall define the preference percentage. I know it's up to 5%, but it's not listed that it would be published at the time of the bid package. And then also allow the subcontractors to include the preference percentage on their bid packages by the construction division. So construction generally, by division. Division 3 is concrete, division 23 is HVAC. And if you allow them to do that, they're the ones who are going to have the apprentices working for them on the subcontractor level. I think it's important to include that so that we actually get use out of this instead of general contractors worrying that they're going to apply a benefit that then they won't be able to meet because they don't actually control which apprentices are going to be on site. So thank you very much.
And Mayor, the only other caller on the line is Nathan Scott. And Nathan, did you want to speak on the apprenticeship item?
Yes, Larry, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioner Nathan Scott. So just want to say that I'm in agreement with the Labor Coalition and the other callers as to the value of the apprentice program, trades and such, and that career path is very important, not only for America, but for our economy. Where I think we differ of opinion, however, is the fact that while I do support labor and I do support the trades and the apprenticeship programs, I don't feel that there should be specific city mandates that you shall use this, you shall do that. And that's where, being in fully support of labor, but not fully in support of city, bending over to implement all these costly mandates. And while there may be incremental costs, certainly with a mandate, preference is probably a better step if you're going to go that direction, which, typically the city just does what it wants to do. But again, being in favor of the apprenticeship and labor and the trades is one thing, but I'm not certain how the city needs to interject itself and taxpayer money to, this particular issue. It can be supportive, but again, you guys should be good stewards of taxpayer money. And when you're bidding on construction and other city projects, you should be looking to get the best benefit for the taxpayer dollar, quality of work and all the intangible up to and including using, organized labor and apprenticeships and apprentices again, supportive of the apprenticeship program, but just think.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, Mayor. That was an inadvertent drop, but that is the last caller we have on the item.
Okay, thank you for everybody for calling in. Some good suggestions, I thought there, especially from Mr. Mitchell. Some good things to think about. Let's go back to Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate everyone calling in. And again, I would say the reason that we need to do this is because it's not happening now. The idea is it's one of those things that if the market were meeting the challenge, this wouldn't be necessary. The market's not meeting the challenge, so we are part of the market and we must move to make that change. Mr. Mitchell, if you're listening, I'd love for you to send me an email with some of that information. That would be helpful to me. I'd love to talk with you about it. I've talked with Mr. Engel and Mr. Tattersall. I appreciate everyone being a part of the conversation on this. And there's a lot more that we can do, but I do want to move forward. And I'm going to move that staff bring back an ordinance with the things that we have discussed and perhaps some options for us to a general policy meeting in November with the idea of having an ordinance for first reading ready by the end of the calendar year.
Is there a second? Commissioner Simmons, seconds. Okay, and without objection, I think it's embedded in the motion, but staff, I love to see cost benefit analysis of things like the minimum dollar threshold, the sort of costs and benefits of requiring certain what were called hard to hire groups as to be included in the apprenticeship program, how we define local, and what the impact of that would be. I think we heard some important questions from Mr. Engel on that, including whether it would be legally allowable to shift the burden to the division bids, the subcontractor bids versus the overall bid. I don't know if we can do that or not, but I get his point quite well. And finally, I think that was it. Yeah, so I just want to know the sort of benefits and the perhaps barriers to some of those things. But I'm happy with the timeline, and I think if we get a draft ordinance before us, we can agree on all of those things and then get it back before the commission. Commissioner Simmons?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. And also to work with Office of Equal Opportunity and Inclusion.
Yeah, they'll be included in that.
Okay.
Conversation. I think it'll be all hands on deck, right? Be all the charters because they all will be impacted by this ordinance for sure. Okay, any other questions that staff needs us to add clarity to before we move on? Speak now, or I won't tell you you have to forever hold your peace. But we'd like to know now if there's something that you're still not clear on that you need us to address. Ms. Shalley?
Thank you, Mayor. Did you all want me to, I did look up the docket for the St. Petersburg case. Did you want me to go over that now or just bring it back in November?
Yeah, if you can give just a high level assessment.
Yes, so the Gulf Coast Chapter Associate Builders filed their litigation in November of 2019. And currently, the most recent filings were in May, and it looks like the parties are still engaged in interrogatories and discovery. So that would mean it's not likely that there's a ruling coming soon. But of course, we'll try again to get in touch with the staff at St. Petersburg and see if they have more information than what the docket reflects. But in short, the Builders Association brought 5 substantive counts, and 3 of them allege that in one way or another, the St. Petersburg Apprenticeship and Disadvantaged Workers Ordinance either violates or is preempted by 3 different Florida statutes. One is Chapter 446 that deals with apprenticeship programs and says that the Department of Education has the sole responsibility for those things. The second statute is the Public Bidding Statute, Chapter 255. The third is the State Minimum Wage Statute in 218.077. And then the remaining 2 counts allege various constitutional violations, including equal protection, the right to earn a living, and due process, the right to conduct business and earn a profit. So.
Okay. I think there'd be several ways to argue those particular citations, which is what I'm sure they're doing right now. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, so let's go ahead and move to a vote on this motion. Basically, to have staff bring back a draft ordinance with some additional information at GPC meeting in November, which will be the first GPC meeting in November because the second one would be Thanksgiving, I'm pretty sure. So, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Ariola.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Sacco.
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons.
Aye.
Commissioner Ward.
Aye.
Commissioner Hayes Santos.
Aye.
And Mayor Poe.
Aye, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. That was a good conversation. I'm looking forward to getting that back and getting it moving forward. So our next item, sorry, let me put my iPad back on, is the living wage discussion. So I know Mr. Feldman had to hop off for a few minutes here. Is there anybody else from staff that wanted to introduce anything here or just turn it straight to the commission? I'm going to guess that the city manager probably would want to introduce. They did include some backup. Mr. Feldman, are you ready now, or do you want? We could take a recess if you need to jump off.
I need about 5 minutes, but just to finish this pricing call.
I think myself and Tom.
Okay, let's take a recess for. Let's take 10 minutes, but not to push it. So we'll go in recess until 2:10. Madam Clerk. call this meeting back to order. Thank you, everyone, for that brief recess. And so let's go ahead and go to our next item, which is a discussion of extending our living wage program to apply to contractors as well. And so there was some, sort of financial impact analysis that was prepared by staff, which is why I wanted to wait for the city manager to get back in case you wanted to comment on that before we turn to the commission for discussion. Mr. Feldman?
Thank you, and thank you for your indulgence in letting me slip off for a couple minutes. We did have a really good conclusion to our bond issuance. The final coupons were just set. We will get a final yield, true interest cost number in, but right now it looks to be around 2.65% true interest cost, which is a much better rate than we originally forecasted when we presented you the issue. So we'll be shooting around final numbers in the next day or two for your information on that.
Great, great news.
Yes. So with regard to living wage, when we last met on this topic, the commission was seeking what the potential financial impact would be on a living wage ordinance that would be applicable to our contractors. There are lots of unknowns, so we've given you a range. The biggest unknown for us is actually what our spend is in any given year and on what our spend will be on the appropriate project. So we did some forecasting based upon past history, and Gail Dykeman did a tremendously detailed analysis, which we have attached to you, that shows the range can be somewhere in the $500,000 to a little over $1 million. Our recommendation is that if we move forward with this on the general government side, that we build into the budget $750,000 for potential increased costs on our services. I would tell you that at this point, since we are at our budget and you'll be having first reading tonight, that if this moves forward and we find that there is increased costs on there, we can always come back and ask for further appropriations on projects as we're moving forward, instead of actually segregating the dollars off. As the commission knows, we will be moving into fiscal year 21, one, with healthy reserves, and two, now that we have sold the POBs, a further cushion into fiscal year 21. So I would tell you, if you do move forward with this concept, we will be in a position to meet the cost if there is one.
Okay, thank you. And I mean, that's a completely reasonable plan, because this isn't really a separate line item. It's just going to be dependent upon the different contracts that we end up approving. And so the contract price may go up, it may not. We don't know until the bids are done. So to take them one at a time is actually more responsible.
And let me add that this is the general government potential impact. I don't want to speak on behalf of GRU. They may have different numbers.
Sure. Yeah, and we'll give them an opportunity as well. Okay, thanks. Well, let's go over to the commission. Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Feldman, thank you. And Mr. Dykeman, I appreciate all the work that's been done on this. It is a long time coming. This was in discussion before I was on the commission, so more than 3 years ago. I'm really pleased to have something in front of us. And I would remind everyone that additional costs that we incur with this, that the city of Gainesville budget incurs, goes directly back to people in the community in Gainesville who are being paid less than a living wage. So this is one of the biggest sticks we can swing at income inequality that is actually in the purview of the city commission and the city of Gainesville to do. That's why it's so important that we do it. If we are serious about income inequality, this is one of the real, honest to goodness things that we can actually do to have an effect on that. If we're saying it could cost us, $1 million a year to do this, well, that's $1 million a year that goes into the pockets of people in our community who are making less than a living wage right now. So that's why I'm excited to get moving forward with this. I have two issues with and they're minor, I think, with the draft ordinance. On line 181, we refer to inmates. We don't do inmate labor anymore, so let's strike that. And line 192, when we have a discussion about an actual cost on health benefits, that probably doesn't belong in the ordinance itself. I think. I think if we, I think there's language that we can use that would be better than putting a dollar figure for health benefits in there, because that is a moving number consistently. And by the time we actually pass an ordinance, 210 probably isn't a real thing anymore. So if we could move forward with those, I would be excited to get this going as quickly as possible. And I love to hear, Mr. Feldman, that it's something we can actually make real as soon as we pass the ordinance. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few questions. I guess I'll just start on what Commissioner Ward on the healthcare benefits and not putting in a dollar amount. My one worry is, what do we tie it to, and having something that is out of our hands that it's tied to, and that may have some kind of budgetary impacts. And I mean, it could be that we revisit this every time, or we have to revisit it every year, something like that. But I just worry about tying it to something that we don't have control over, of what that actual dollar amount might be. I do want to hear from GRU on their impacts. I don't see anything in the backup from GRU.
And Mr. Blarski.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. The impact to GRU would be between, we have a range of 2.2 million to 4.74 million by 2024.
And do you have a breakdown similar to how general government? What's how I think one of the questions we had last time was kind of what is the breakdown of that, to get a better idea of what is going into those numbers.
Again, I would defer to Mr. Shepard on that one. I have the larger number, but Mr. Shepard would have the other number. So I see he's unmuted.
Yep. Thanks, Bill Shepard, Chief Customer Officer, GRU. These are the numbers we presented to you the last time, and actually we did a range starting with the first year of implementing this, which was assumed to be FY21, and that range was 883,000 to 2.3 million, depending on how many of those contractors did not already pay a minimum wage, and we used some national data to help us with that, along with our actual FY18 spend numbers. And I can get you all the meat behind that. It took us a very long time to put that together. And then since the living wage goes up, ratchets up each year, by the year 2024, when you hit that final tier, our estimated impact is 2.2 million to 4.7 million per year impact on our expenses. Some of those are capital, some of those are O&M.
Okay. And I guess these numbers, both on general government and GRU, are not including any inflationary pressures that would already be on contracts going up. Is that correct?
That is correct. We didn't apply that as a...
Is that the same on the general government side?
Sorry, I was on mute. Correct. I mean, this is looking, at an estimated, forecast.
In a silo, in essence.
Yeah, but we don't know what the inflationary impact would be, or deflationary, depending on what that means.
I do have so my next question is, just want to have clarity. I mean, I read through it, but I want to have clarity on the last ordinance had exemptions and some loopholes. Can you walk through kind of exactly what those exemptions are and who is exempt? And I guess, yeah, what is it not covering? I see here students and some other ones under covered employees. Are there other kind of ones that are exempt from that in terms of businesses? There's no like location thing that was in the last one as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's really just what's under the covered employees. Any kind of labor that we do that would be on the only section on page 6 between line 178 and 183. Those are kind of the only exemptions.
Yeah, there's a broad exemption that says that if we're precluded by law.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. But no other carve-outs then.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Mr. Shepard, if you could send those numbers, I'd very much appreciate. And I'd like for us to support us moving forward on the ordinance. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to piggyback off Commissioner Hayes Santos, but first, before I do, I just want to say how disappointed I am with GRU. We're not providing us with any backup. We're not providing us with anything that we can look at. We are talking about a living wage to not just have for the government, but as one government, general government, and GRU. So I'm very disappointed that GRU doesn't have anything that we can look at, that we can have a real discussion about. For instance, the city manager have a service category with the occupation code, the occupation title, the hourly wages, something that we can all look at and just have this type of dialogue and have a better understanding of this whole ordinance. So, you know, I'm disappointed, and I'm hoping that as we move further as one government, that that we get all information so we can make these decisions to help our citizens as a whole. So yeah, I'm disappointed in that. But to go on, to say that I think this is great. I'm glad we're to this place. This is going to benefit a lot of people, and I think we're making a good decision moving forward as a government to have this in place so that people can have a living wage. So I just want to just say thank you to staff for working so hard on it. But again, I'm just disappointed in GRU. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Hayes Santos, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to confirm someone here. The minimum wage is going to be on the ballot to bring that up. Is that correct in November? Is that at the statewide? Does anybody know? That is? Okay, Commissioner Ward. Okay. So that may make this ordinance somewhat mute too, but hopefully that passes as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further hands, let's go ahead and turn it over to Larry to see if any of our neighbors want to speak on extending our living wage requirements to contract workers.
Beg your pardon, Mayor. We do have a couple of callers on this item, and I will begin with Nathan Scott, who should be on the line to speak. Mr. Scott.
Yes, Larry. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, Nathan Scott. So, support of the living wage. My concern is simply this: is the City Commission keeps passing city taxpayer-funded mandate after city taxpayer-funded mandate, irrespective of the cost and the impact to current and future budgets. Now, Mr. Feldman has told you on the city side that this is going to cost approximately $750,000. You don't have that money budgeted. Apparently, the backup seems to indicate that it's coming out of the city reserves. On the GRU side, GRU just told us that there's almost a $5 million annual impact that increases on a year-over-year basis. So for you commissioners that don't seem to be concerned about our GRU electric rates and having high highest electric rates in the state of Florida. You know, that's kind of shocking because, you know, these things don't come free. And if you impose these city mandates on GRU has no choice but to meet its electric system revenue requirement and increase our electric rates even higher than they are now. So the commission just seems to be agnostic to reality. And I know that what you're trying to do here is well-intentioned. No one doubts that. But you guys want the whole enchilada. You want your cake, your ice cream, and your toppings and cherry on top too. And Commissioner Ward stated he's so excited for this. He can't wait to see it. Commissioner Ward, if you're so excited about doing this, then why don't you give up your city commission salary and help fund it instead of imposing it on taxpayers? Because it's easy for you guys to indiscriminately spend other people's money. You guys don't care. You think you're on some mission. But the problem is, folks, you guys are fiscally irresponsible and don't know how you're going to pay for it. Unlike the county commission, who adopted the property tax rollback rate and showed some fiscal discipline in the midst of a pandemic and tried to provide some relief to hardworking families in Alachua County, the Gainesville City Commission tonight is not going to do that. You guys are taking a 5.5% increase in revenue, and you refuse to demonstrate any fiscal responsibility whatsoever to provide relief to hardworking Gainesville families. So how is it that the county commission can be more fiscally responsible than the Gainesville City Commission, despite being in the same political party? I'm not getting this. So I would ask the city commission to approach this methodically and slowly, but you guys can't. It's like every city commission meeting, you hire another consultant. Every city commission meeting, you're imposing another city taxpayer funded mandate. I mean, you can't keep track of, you guys can't even keep track of all of them. Thank you.
Here, next, we'll have Jeremiah Tattersall, and then we have two callers that have joined us since we got on, and we'll add to the call if they're on this item. Jeremiah?
Hey, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for bringing this up. This is something that's been in the works for a long time. I think everyone on the commission right now, at one time or another, has supported this ordinance, ran on a platform of supporting an ordinance like this, and once implemented, can definitely put that feather in your cap as being someone that supported this ordinance all the way through. I support Commissioner Ward in removing inmate labor. We don't use incarcerated labor anymore, and if we do, which I don't think we will in the future, there's other exemptions in there for that, and it just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb that inmate is in there. And then also about the healthcare requirements, the way the county does this and the way that we got away from having a dollar amount in there, similar to how the minimum wage for the contractors is tied to the minimum wage of a normal city worker, is we took the average for the Affordable Care Act for like I believe it's a bronze plan for a 40-year-old non-smoker in Alachua County, and that's in the ordinance, and it's updated along with the actual wage that is required, and it kind of follows the fiscal year. It actually drags it a little bit behind so that, you know, it can advertise and people can adjust their budgets accordingly. The $1.25 is what it's currently at, the living wage ordinance, and I believe it's been $1.25 since 2002. I believe this ordinance was first passed. It hasn't changed since then. So that's the big issue with that. And you know, Commissioner Ward and Commissioner Simmons and everyone's correct on how this is a major living wage issue for paying, you know, contractors and everything. But it's also about unfair competition, where we have, you know, city workers that are being paid at least $13.75 an hour right now, and it incentivizes outsourcing if we're allowing other people to pay less. I mean, it's like offshoring, but, you know, outsourcing, it's the same principle. And so this would definitely even the playing field and get rid of that incentive. Not that I believe that this commission would be outsourced heavy or anything like this, but it definitely would also solve issues that come up with that. Thank you.
Mayor and Commissioners, we have a California call. I believe this is Sheila Payne. Ms. Payne, if you're there and are calling about the living wage, you can go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you. So Jeremiah just said everything I would have said. We think the same way. I would like for the city commission, since it's been 6 years that we've been talking about this, and I think it will impact more people on the lower end. We know that, like with janitorial services, that's what's been heavily researched about how poorly they're paid that do the janitorial services. So I'd like to see if there's money in this year's budget for the city commission to implement this, since it's been 6 years we've been talking about it. And with all respect, I also am advocating that less money be given to GPD. Maybe the $1 million they're getting could go to pay for this. And I'd also like to say that I really appreciate the city manager. I feel that since he's come, and I hope I don't regret this, but he's really been able to get a lot of stuff that have been in the works for a long time, like really stepping it up. He speaks for himself, and I really appreciate everything the city commission has been able to get done just in the past year and a half. So I appreciate you all. Thank you. Bye.
And Mayor, the only other caller on the line at the moment is James Ingle. And James, I assume that you're calling about the living wage item. If you are, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just calling to also voice support for the this living wage ordinance. I don't think we can kind of balance our budget by paying poverty wages, and I'm really impressed that we're stepping up and addressing this issue and making sure that people that are working in the city are paid for the work they're doing. So thanks very much for the effort that's going into this.
Mayor, those are all of our callers.
Mr. Mayor?
Hey, thank you.
This is Bill. Sorry,
Shepherd,
I
go
could
ahead.
not find my hand raised button anywhere, but I did want to respond. We sent a memo to the General Policy Committee February 27th outlining those numbers that I just mentioned to you. So, and that was as requested by the General Policy Committee. So I didn't want you all to think that, we were just standing by idly. There was a lot of work that went into this, and we sent that on February 27th. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Shepherd. And I just think for future meetings, even if we've gotten things in a previous meeting, to include them in the backup when they come back up. That's it's important that we have them all in one place. And that's it. Just makes things not even just for us, but for folks that are following us in public, for them to know that there was another meeting in February where this information might be available is probably asking a little bit too much.
Understood.
So we got standard operating procedure. It will go much more smoothly, I think, in the future. Okay. Well, it sounds like general consensus that we all want to move forward with this. And what we heard from the city manager earlier was, probably cleaner and, sort of makes more sense to roll this all into one ordinance. And so, we can, we can move to a motion, but I think really just to include it in that discussion that we have in November with the draft ordinance. And then from there, we can make any final determinations and get it on a city commission agenda shortly after that. Commissioner A. Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My one concern of trying to get it all into one ordinance is this one seems to be pretty much ready to go, and the apprenticeship one I feel still has significant hurdles, both with staff and maybe even at the commission level. I know maybe, I don't know, I just have concerns. If this is ready to go, I feel like we should move forward on it. I understand what the city manager said, but I just worry that this will get stuck in kind of purgatory like a lot of our other items that we've had. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I don't think that's the case. If this comes back to us at that first meeting in November, then, I mean, we can take action shortly after that, either, last meetings in December or early January. And we're not going to really be able to deal with it before then anyway. Our agenda is full, and I don't know if the staff would be ready for our second meeting and for our next meeting this month. We don't have one the first or second week of October. So that would just be, so it'd either be the second meeting in October or the 1st of November. I mean, we're only really talking about a 2-week difference there of when this would come back.
This one we could have go over first reading. The other one we're asking for a draft to come back. And I mean, this won't, if we wait for a full ordinance, it probably won't be until sometime January or February before I guess January will be in there. And that's just my opinion. I'd rather us move forward. But I don't know if the city manager has more opinions or Commissioner Ward. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hear what you're saying, and I hear what the manager's saying, and it would be a cleaner ordinance to do it all together. But this is actual money in people's pockets, and every couple months we wait is a couple months added to the years that we've already not taken action on it. And given the vehemence that we all, or 6 out of 7 of us displayed about this back in February, I would prefer to move forward with this post haste.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Simmons?
Mayor, I would have to agree. I'm ready to move forward with this as well. Thank you.
Okay. There's still no motion on the floor. Commissioner Santos?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move that we have staff place this for first reading at the second meeting in October. I guess we don't have a first meeting, but I guess that 3rd week of October.
Okay, so second by Ward, moved by Santos, seconded by Ward. Seeing no further hands, we'll move to a vote, Madam Clerk.
Okay, Commissioner Simmons?
Aye.
Commissioner Ward?
Aye.
Commissioner Sacco?
Aye.
Commissioner Ariola?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Hayes Santos?
Aye.
Mayor Poe?
Aye, that motion passes unanimously. All right, well, thank you everybody for participating in these discussions, especially all those folks from labor who've been working on this a long time. Glad to sort of get this across the finish line, and look forward to getting something finalized in November as well for the other item. So with that, we are done. Anybody listening or watching right now, just want to remind them that we do have the first reading of several of our budget items today. There's not just one thing. We've got fire assessment, we've got GRU rates and other city rates. We've got the tentative millage rate, and we've also got second reading for the open container ordinance modifications. That meeting will begin at 6, and we'd love to see you there. With that, we are adjourned.